recording, so I'm gonna turn my Facebook off so it stops squeaking over here. Okay, so thank you guys so much for coming tonight. I'm really excited for our Monday meetup. It is our first book club of the year. It's really probably our first book club in a little while, and I really can't think of a better book that we could have done because those of us who have been around this thing for a while have read a lot of books, and we tried to really grow a whole lot. And I feel like everything that I've learned the entire time that I've been in Plexus was in this book. And so I just really feel like there couldn't be a much better book and an easier to digest book. And so just kind of glancing over everybody in here. Okay, so I didn't really know if we would have people on the call tonight who hadn't read the book. And so I am just going to briefly kind of go over a couple things to begin with, but I'm really not the main speaker on tonight's call. We have three lovely ladies who are going to be sharing their things that they've learned through this book. And so I'm really, really looking forward to hearing them tonight. And so just to kind of give us all a good review, I'll kind of review back over the entire book. I'll give you guys a funny that happened to me. I don't know if this is like an evidence of what mindset I am or what. I don't know if this is survivor or conqueror, but I had the book. In fact, I ordered it early. I am the leader of the book group in the book group call, and I lost the book before I even started reading it. And I don't lose books. Like, those are so important to me. And I didn't know what to do. So we had to start reading. So I started reading it on the Hoopla app for free. So I've been reading the free version, learned all kind of cool things that I could do in that app. And then all of a sudden on Sunday, my kid pulls this out of the church bag. So you just never know. So I didn't let it defeat me. I did not become a victim and, not read the book the whole time. So, all right. So I went back through everything and I just made a couple notes, and but even going back through it was like kind of cool to have read a lot of the book and then go back and see the different mindsets again. And so just again, the three ways that we can kind of respond to the circumstances. I think we could all say that first chapter just about pulled the rug out from under you from the very beginning. And so your daddy will talk to you. Okay. Does anybody have that child that you have worked on reminding them not to interrupt from the entire time they were born? And like they just cannot get it through the thickness of their skull. Okay, going to keep working on that. All right. So a victim is a person that has been injured, destroyed, sacrificed under any kind of condition. Okay, but a victim mindset is different. You do not have to become a victim no matter what you have been through, and that's what he alluded to in that first chapter. And so a victim mindset is an acquired personality trait in which a person tends to recognize himself as a victim of the negative actions of others and will behave as this were the case, even in the face of contradictory evidence. So I read my husband that definition and I looked at it, and I'm not going to tell if nobody on this call, but I looked at him and I said, do you know anybody like that? And he said somebody's name to me. And I literally was like, that's exactly the person that I was thinking of. And whenever you are stuck in this, it doesn't matter. Like, people can hold up every sign in the world and you're like, no, that's not what that sign says. I mean, they will argue with everything because they cannot see the truth. They live in the past, have zero accountability, live in why me all the time. Everything is about them. They're pessimists. They blame others. They believe when we talk about network marketing, they believe everyone's already heard about Plexus. Their social media is too small. They can't do this. They know every reason why it would be harder for them to sell and be successful. And they think it's everybody else's problem. It's shipping, it's the company, and We actually know people who have made it farther in this company who still struggle with that mindset. So don't believe that it's just the people who are silver or haven't ever reached any level of success. We have actually heard people who are jewels have struggled with victim mindsets as well. So don't be fooled. But a lot of times we get so stuck, and if you haven't struggled with this yet, it is coming. If we get stuck trying to please these people and we get pulled down to their level because it's no fun where they are and they want everybody else to be there. Then we move on to the survivor. And a survivor, I think, is the one that shocked every single one of us because I don't think that we put a person in between the victim and the conqueror, or I know I didn't. When he said that, I was like, oh, buddy, thank you for stepping on my toes because the survivor has an inner drive. And for those of you who are just hopping on, I'm just kind of going over the three types of responses that he talked about and the types of people that you can become. And then we're going to let some amazing, awesome speakers take over for instead of me talking. Okay. I'm just going over like the basic mindset. So we all have a good framework that we reviewed and everything. So the survivor has the inner drive. They have endurance. They have resilience. They will stay the long course because they believe that it's more important not to quit rather than to win. That was really hard for me to swallow. They are committed to events and conferences. They're the people who are always there. They come to all your team calls. They struggle to be vulnerable, though, to show their weaknesses and their struggles. They also struggle with their own worth, but they are often found in leadership. I thought that was really interesting because their hard work has got them somewhere, but it hasn't really got them to where they could be. They're often guilty of something that we kind of talked about in our book group about fake working. And that one was like, oh man, I feel so called out. Ah. And so doing good things, that would be like doing the good things in Plexus, like showing up, even doing a book group would be like almost a part of that, not because you're not doing a good thing, but because it's not still doing the main thing. So as long as you're doing the main thing, it's okay to still do the good things, right? Okay. They all go together. So, and then we moved on to the conqueror. And this person has complete accountability. They're willing to face adversities. They share their failures and they are vulnerable, and this allows other people to grow. They accept support from others. Isn't that crazy? That the person who's the conqueror is willing to accept help? Like that doesn't really sound like it almost sounds like opposing ideas in your mind. You would not think that person would be willing. You think they've got it all together. No, they're actually willing to accept help from others. They are taking massive action instead of fake working. And this is the part I truly loved about thinking thoughts on purpose to drive their feelings, actions, and thoughts towards the life that they want. So I do too, Julie. She said she struggles with receiving help and not feeling guilty. Yes, me too. So I'm going to share one very short thing that I heard in a book, not this same book. I'm actually reading personal books as well. And so you do need to do that too. Don't just read like for one thing, be reading for all these areas, not maybe at the same time if you can't, but just have different groups that you kind of read for to kind of keep growing yourself in other areas. But this was in like a family book, and she was talking about renewing your mind. And she said, it's kind of funny. If my kids are gone, I get the house really, 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 really clean. They come home and it's destroyed within, minutes. And it looks like I have never done any work. She said the same thing is true about your mind. You can do all kinds of work on it. And she said, and then you wake up the next day and it takes just a few minutes and it's already beginning to develop dirt and trash, and it takes constant work. And so you're going to hear from people who are just starting out in Plexus. You're going to hear from people who've been here a little longer. And then you're going to hear from somebody who's not only been in Plexus for a little while, but in other company for a while. And so she's been around network marketing for a good long while. And I want you to hear, but in each of their things and in your own life, I want you to think about this as an ongoing thing. And so I had toddlers, like 3 or 4 of them at the same time, or not 3 or 4, but I had like little kids all at the same time. So like their trash looks different now than it did. Okay, now, but the trash is still there. And so no matter where you are in your life, it is still constant work. And we get so frustrated thinking that it's just going to be like we've done all this work and it's just going to be magically better and it's never going to get that bad in the bad way again. And it is going to. So I want you to take courage that it is a daily battle. And no matter where you are, you're going to still keep fighting those thoughts. And so I'm going to first turn it over to my dear friend Sam that I met at convention this year.
Oh, goodness. Okay, y'all just bear with me. I'm not very good at public speaking quite yet, but I'm working on it. So I'm Sam. I'm 23. If y'all don't know me, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've been married for a little over 2 years now, and I have one little boy who is 7 months old, and he just started crawling today. So I'm very proud. Um, I've been in the business for just over 4 months now. I had taken the products for about a year and a half, but just really started doing the business about in April. So I've gotten so much from this book. And I told Ashley, I'm really sorry if I go over 6 minutes because I've got so much to say, because this book has really opened my eyes to so many different things in my life. So first off, the first thing that I noticed was the different areas of my life that I've had these 3 mindsets. Um, the first area is my personal life. He opens up the book with talking about his childhood trauma, and my mind just automatically went back to my childhood trauma. I don't know if y'all have any, but I do. For those of you who don't know me, I was raised in a Christian home, but my mom was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And so I come from a broken family, and I had some trauma with that. And I remember I can look back now and see where I had the victim mindset. I thought, God, why? Why me? Why'd you do this to me? Why, you know, out of all the people, why'd you choose me to do this to? And I don't understand, what did I do to deserve this? I was just so in my victim mindset. I couldn't see past anything but me. And then I remember being a survivor. I pretended that everything was fine and that I was strong, but really deep inside I was so weak and I hadn't overcome everything that I'd been through. And then I remember the day when I became a conqueror and God showed me He didn't. Sorry, y'all. He didn't let me go through these trials to hurt me, but to make me so much stronger and to, become that conqueror. He let me become the mom that I want to be, and I wouldn't have been that if he wouldn't have put me through these things. And I learned to trust him and to just have a relationship with God that I would have never had if it wouldn't have been for this. And so, the Bible talks about thanking the Lord for all the things, not just the good things, but the bad things too. So now I can look back and I can thank the Lord for just all the childhood trauma and all the bad things, because it's made me just such a better person today. And I know there's no telling where I'd be if it wasn't for that. And I'm thankful that God used that in my life. And so, sorry, I knew I would cry. But not only in my personal life, but in my business, I've been that victim. I've blamed everything else but myself. I have blamed the products. I have blamed other people's success for my failure. I've thought, oh man, if only the products were less expensive, then I would be able to get a sale. But that's not true. It was all about me and my victim mindset. I've also been the survivor. I focused a lot more on quitting than when I'm not quitting than winning. I've been like, well, at least I'm not quitting. I'm still here. But I wasn't going anywhere. I was not successful at all with that mindset. I would do my 10 messages and I'd say, well, I did my 10 messages. I don't know why I'm not successful, but I wasn't doing anything else in my business. I wasn't focusing on any of the other IPA. So that is why I wasn't successful there. And I'm not always in the conqueror mindset, but I'm trying to be more now. And so I just have to realize that I have to take a lot more massive action. I love how he said massive action, because I'm like, man, if you do have massive action, success will come from that. So the biggest thing that I've learned is that if you want to be successful, you've got to have the conqueror's mindset no matter what. I know the whole book is about that, but like it's just really, really stuck out to me that I've got to keep my mindset in a conqueror's mindset. And also, he talked about how you control your mind doesn't control you. And that's really big to me because a lot of times my mind will just spiral, and I have to remember I'm in control, not my mind. My mind tells me these bad things, but I just don't need to listen to it. So I wanted to give a quick little example of how important mindset is. Y'all might think I'm crazy for this, but I'm just going to tell you anyway. So, I am obsessed with birth. I'm obsessed with not only birth, but unmedicated birth. So as soon as I got pregnant, I said, I'm going to have an unmedicated birth. And people told me I was crazy. They told me, oh, just wait till you're in the delivery room. You won't be able to do it. And they said, just wait till you have that first contraction. You'll be asking for the medication. They told me that I was crazy, that I was a hippie. I heard all the things. And half of it was from friends and family thinking I was crazy. And this relates so much to the business because people will tell you that you can't do it and that you're not going to be successful. But if you stick your mind to it, you can do it, you know? But I didn't just decide that I was going to do it and not take any action. I took action every single day to prepare for the unmedicated birth. If I just said, oh, I want to have an unmedicated birth and went to a hospital where there's medication and not prepare one day, then I wouldn't have had an unmedicated birth. I would have asked for the drugs in 2 seconds because I knew that I needed to prepare, so I prepared every single day. I taught myself how to cope through the pain. I taught myself to focus on the breathing rather than the pain. I had to teach myself these things. I had to train my mind to think about other things besides the pain. And I had to go to a birth center where there was no medication, so there was no way out unless I had to be transferred, but I wouldn't have time to do that anyway. So I had to do the things. I had to set my environment up. He talked about the formula. You have to set your environment up, and that's what I did. And so this is kind of just a crazy example, but I mean, I had to train my mind to really focus, and it took everyday discipline to do that. And also, fear came. It wasn't just so easy. Fear came, especially when I started to push. I thought, okay, I'm about to rip my whole body in half, and I'm never going to be the same again. But then I just thought to myself, I just sat there on my knees and I said, Sam, if you just push, it's all going to be over. And your why is, I thought about my why. I want to see my boy who I've been growing for 9 months. I want to hold him. I want to kiss him. And my why was so much bigger than my fears that I had of tearing. So it was pain with a purpose. And that's what I've gotten so much out of this book is that, childhood trauma, it's uncomfortable. If we're stuck in that victim and survivor's mindset, it's just pain. But if we're in that conqueror's mindset, it's pain with a purpose. So that's what I've gotten from it. Sorry to be so long.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you so much. Wow. I was about to say you're a bit, that's not what I meant. You are a conqueror. You are an overcomer already in so many ways. That's very inspiring. Okay, Miss Bethany is going to share next. And I met her last year at convention, but I haven't seen her since. But I like her post on Facebook, so I'm going to let her take it away.
Okay, I am so excited to talk tonight. I'm a little nervous. I think we all get nervous when we talk in front of people, even though y'all are like on my phone, so I don't actually see you in person. But if you remember me, I didn't go to convention this last time. I went last year in 2023, and I was the girl that just talked about me getting engaged, like I wanted to get engaged, and now I'm married. I've been married for almost a year now. And I've been in Plexus for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in October, and I just hit my senior silver rank. So I'm super excited about that. But I've grown a lot since when I started, and this book has actually helped me so much. But if you know anything about me, I cannot sit still through a show, so I will not be able to sit still and read a book. So I bought the audiobook. And I listen to it like a podcast and I love it. But the first 2 chapters were, like, one of the 2 chapters that were, like Miss Ashley said, it, like, shocked me, like, "Oh my gosh, this is me to a T." And I actually sent the book to my aunt who's also in network marketing. I'm like, "This is so good, you need to read it." But then I got to chapter 4, and that's when, like, my eyes just opened, and it kinda, like, stung a little because it talked about, fears and excuses that we make for our business, and that's what stops us from growing in our business. And one of my favorite quotes from that chapter was, "You can make excuses, or," and he wrote that in like capital letters OR, "make things happen, but you can't do both." And I think oftentimes I make excuses all the time as why I'm not hitting the next rank, why I'm not don't have time to sit there and message people, why I'm not posting on my stories, all these things that we make excuses about, or specifically I do. But that really hit me because I tend to make excuses all the time and why I'm not growing in my business. But the reality is, I'm not growing because I'm not growing because I am making excuses, and I need to stop and put action to my words and start making relationship with those who can grow with me in the future. I just think there's so much potential, and just like he talks about in this book all the time, there's so much potential in our head, and we just get inside of it and we make excuses on why we can't do something. But if you believe you can't, and I tell my husband this all the time, but if you believe you can't, you won't ever do it. And that's something I tend to forget, because I think that is my biggest problem in this business is I make excuses into why I can't do it or why I'm not doing it. And so in reality, if I believe I'm not going to do it, or if I believe I can't, I'm just not going to. And so that's just been the most encouraging thing about this book. Is it's just encouraged me to stop telling myself I can't, or stop telling myself, you know, making excuses it's why I can't, and just actually put action to doing it. So yeah, it's like,
Thank you, Bethany. I think we all struggle with that. I know I do. Oh, it's so easy to make an excuse. Okay, we have one last wonderful lady, and she is going to share with us. I'm sure she's got a lot of good things to share.
Hi, Sarah Morrison. So I have been with Plexus for 3 years, as in this past July. And so will be 44 in October, probably the oldest one on here. That's okay. Looking at all your young, beautiful faces. Some of you are close to me, so I guess that's okay. But anyway, good to be here tonight, ladies. Thank you for what you shared. I enjoyed that so very much. I am very encouraged at your generation. It encourages me and it keeps me young. I have a lot of younger girls on my team, and so it's very encouraging to hear you say those things. It helps me to be able to go back and know what to tell them as well. So I have a couple of things to share, and I'm gonna take away from chapter 7 and 8 because that's what I read last, and that's what I can remember the most. I am going through that phase of life where it's like, okay, one day at a time right now. So anyway, I read 7 and 8 today because that's just how I roll. So, but it's good for me to be able to have that fresh on my mind. And I love this book so much, and I love to read, but this one has been very good. I've loved all the books that we've had in this business, but there's only been a couple that have stood out that I have really been like, okay, this one is this is really good. And because it gets to the point and it's very, he's just very plain with you. And I'm just like, ouch, but at the same time, he gets right to the point and makes it very, easy to grasp. So I have really enjoyed this, and it's kind of gotten to the point where I've left this book for the weekend because I do have so many other books that I am into as well for other things. This one's been my weekend book, and it's been really good. So first of all, for me, I feel like it has been so relatable to the ministry as well. I'm a pastor's wife. My husband's pastored here in Pilot Mountain, North Carolina for 12 years, but I was also a pastor's daughter. And so I've always kind of been in the ministry of some sort my entire life. So it has been very relatable for ministry. And I think for me, that has been very helpful. My husband and I have been able to have so many conversations, and he's reading really good books right now on leadership. In fact, he gave me one. I really have them stacked up I'm like, I will get to it when I'm done with this one. So, but just leadership and things. And I've been able to talk with him about this one too. And I was like, this is really good. And, it's like Ashley said in the beginning, you do have people that are like, we've been through different people in the ministry that we've counseled with, or we've dealt with, or that we've had issues with, that we're like, oh, that's them, that's them, that's them. But this book has been, that's me, that's me, that's me. So it has been very helpful in that sense. So for me, in chapter 7 today, the victim, of course, it's been very interesting how you have a lot of all three of these. And that's encouraging too, to be like, okay, if I do at least have one of the conquering, I can identify with at least one of those conquerors, so that was encouraging. But victim, for me, reading about that today, and this is so interesting because I have thought about this before, but trapping yourselves in that make-believe world that people are upset at you. And I think a lot of times we think people are mad at us because we've literally had this conversation in our heads that never existed. And then we don't approach that person because we thought they were mad at us when they have no idea, because we literally cooked that up in our own heads. And that is a huge trigger for anxiety. And I've done a lot of study on anxiety and the spiritualness that goes into. And that's huge for that too, is our victim mindset towards other people. And the Lord has worked with me on that, like with even in the ministry, but even also in the company, like thinking what people are thinking when you're sending these messages. And we completely back out of a sale or out of a post because we already thought in our mind what they thought about it, just because they didn't answer, or maybe they didn't answer in the way we expected them to. So just being able to free yourself of that was very helpful. But the survivor is also, just having that mindset of not owning up to what it is that we do that is wrong, and when somebody points that out, it's very hurtful. We get our feelings hurt easy when somebody points something out that we need to work on. And instead of dealing with that, we're like, well, this is what I'm good at. So we immediately want to bring in what we're good at, so we don't have to focus on that. And I think that really jumped out at me today, is just, it's kind of like being able to make everybody laugh, but not at the expense of yourself. So being open to being able to grow in that area of listening to what other people are saying to you and being able to grow through that. And he talked a lot about comparison. And I thought this was not strange, because nothing's strange. I thought this was of the Lord today, because again, I didn't read these chapters until this afternoon. But this morning, early devotion time with the Lord, he was bringing out to me, and this is not the first time, just that comparison being a thief. And I read that in his book today, was comparison is a thief of joy. It's a thief of joy. But I wrote down in my devotions this morning, the Lord told me how much the comparison of others, that's from the devil too. I mean, it is from him straight up. He wants us to be thinking that everyone is out for us, or that we're not as good as somebody else. And I struggle with that. I struggle with that big time in the ministry. I struggle that with me and my husband in the ministry. And we're going through some things right now where the Lord is really challenging us and growing our faith. And it's big stuff. It's not just like your normal, I'm having faith more. These are huge life-changing faith things that we've been praying about and taking big, huge faith steps in our ministries. And it's easy to compare other people in the ministry. Well, of course, they're going to be that because they're this and they're that, and they're known in this group and that group. And so the Lord just hit me upside the head this morning, just that men are all the same in his eyes. I mean, yes, we're all in different levels, but he loves none of us different. And we just have got to be careful about that comparison. So it's the same way in our not our ministry, but our job too. Of seeing where other people are and thinking that we can't reach that. And I loved how he said, conquerors don't steal joy, they seek to share it. And I loved that today. And then as far as the FOMO, boy, that was a good one. But just, again, taking responsibility for everything, and those things that we don't get to do, or we get FOMO about not being there. And we need to take ownership as to figuring out why that happened and the reasons why that is. And when you come to the place where you can take ownership of all those things, yes, there may be this factor or that factor. When it all comes down to it, it's me at the end of the day who did the work or didn't do the work. And then also in the spiritual ministry aspect of this, is having a preacher husband, where we've been married for 21 years, that is not afraid to have that conversation with you when you are not seeing it and you are that victim person. But also, I think we do have those leaders on this team as well that are like that. And that's hard to take sometimes. And it's hard to take from my preacher husband when they point these things out, and our flesh just wants to just absolutely be like, I'm not like that, and wants to attack and be like, no, that is not me. And we don't see it at all. And the devil puts that blinder on. And I think it's if we could just take a second to step back instead of being so defensive. And what this just recently happened in our marriage, where my husband's like, listen, I love you. I mean, I want you to listen. I'm not doing this because I don't like you. And he has to get my attention like that a lot. So I just stopped back and I sat back and I'm like, okay, listen to what he's saying. What is it that I need to take ownership of? Just stop for a second. He is not going to hurt you. He's not here to do anything wrong on you. So he's doing this to help you. And it's the same way in our businesses. Sometimes it's tough to hear those things and it doesn't always feel good, but it's going to push us to do better. Because when we focus on the good, I love when he said, when we focus on the good, that will come and not the sacrifice, hope becomes our motivation and we can do anything then. I love that. Just stop focus on all the woe is me kind of things. But really quickly in ending, the vision board thing is the first time I've ever done the vision board. And I have been in direct sales before this with a makeup company for 4 years. And first of all, let me say, we never had this. First of all, we had team meetings, but it was never like this. And it wasn't that I wasn't involved in a book club. It was just never this community that we have here. So that just to say that you're in the right place, first of all. I won't even go into all the other reasons why you're in the right place, but that's one big one. We could talk about the financial stuff all day. But anyway, this is the first time I have had a vision board that I have ever done. It was with this company. And I did it back in March because I wanted this and I got this. And I don't think if I had done the vision board, I don't think I would be wearing my little watch today. And it's still here. It says April. So now you all can see where I've slacked up the summer. So this is my little vision board back here. And you can see it's red because I am senior gold and I want to be ruby. So this is my next goal here. But at convention, I did some scarier ones. So I probably have been afraid to write on that what I did at convention. And Julie's after me all the time. Don't you write that down unless you're going to do it. I'm like, yeah. See, remember when your leader's telling you she's not out to get you, but she's not scary, but I was like, yes, ma'am. So just being able to write that down and see that does help. So I know it was kind of a little bit all over the board tonight, but yeah, it's been really good. I've really enjoyed this book tremendously. It'll definitely be a go back and read again type book, I think.
That was really good. I loved hearing from all of you who are in different places and different walks of life. And so I'm sure that y'all could relate to somebody that shared tonight. And if you didn't, then that's okay too. But anyway, so we still have 2 chapters left. We have Unknown and Judged. And I am like, oh man, the world. Do I even want to? So we definitely want to finish our book. It just so happened that there was a kind of a good bit of reading in those last 4 chapters, and I didn't want to just overwhelm everyone. So I thought we'd just go ahead and do our book group call because it's y'all don't know this, but we know this, that the people who plan these calls, it's the 3rd one of the month. And so it just so happened that it just had to be this day. So that's kind of why we still have 2 chapters left. But I did want to end the call with something that I bet some of you have also thought about. I thought the title of this book was unique. And when I saw it, I thought, the game of conquering? Like, that sounds so mean, like to conquer others. Forgive me, okay? Like, my mind doesn't always think like everybody else's. And so I thought, I don't want anybody to, I don't want anybody to see me reading this book for fear that they think I'm going to go out and like try to manipulate people or something. Well, then I read the book and then I'm like, oh man, it's not about conquering others. It's about conquering yourself. But I love how you guys brought, spiritual things into it, because if you're a Christian, you're not going to take one step that the Lord's not interested in what you're doing. And so just taking the name of this, I'm sure several of you have also had this same thought. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress, persecution, famine, nakedness, peril, or sword? As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. Now, I know that's talking about something else a little bit, with some persecution and other things that can be horrible as we face those things. But I love the thought that a lot of times we think, oh, if I can just make it through this day as a survivor. I get that sometimes. I so relate to being a survivor, or definitely as a victim. And in the ministry, it is a sad thing because we do encounter a lot of victims. But to know that there's not only a place in the Christian life for us to be conquerors, but we're called something more than that. We're called more than conquerors. And that just, I'm like, there's even more than what this book even talks about. And that's what Jesus gives to us as Christians. And so if you are a believer on this call, I believe a lot of you probably are, you're not just a conqueror in your business. You are more than a conqueror. You're not just a conqueror in your motherhood and single, married, one kid, two kid, how many ever. You are more than a conqueror. And that's not something that I said. That's something that he said. And so as you are, how do you walk in that though? How do you go from where you are now to walking in the truth that he says about you? And I think that a lot of things in this book will take you there. And I think many of us know what he's talked about in the book so far, about being in control of our thoughts, about being mindful. What did he say? One quote was, we need to think less about what we, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was basically, you need to worry less about what you, does anybody know what I'm talking about? And he said, think more about what you're thinking about and think less about.
He said, stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself.
That was it. Stop listening to yourself and start talking to yourself. And I didn't really share personally tonight on this call because I would have been with Sam. But I did not talk to myself before Plexus. I listened all the time. And what that girl was saying was bad. And that girl didn't just beat herself up with a stick, it was with a cat of nine tails. I'm talking about the old me. See, I don't really believe that God brought Plexus to me just for like products to change my husband's life. I don't believe that he really just brought me here for finances, even though I was like bad finances. I believe he brought me here for this. And so I believe personal growth. I would not be the human being that I am today if it wasn't for Plexus. I was completely not this person. And so I believe that God has used this in my life. And I believe that books like this have changed my whole way of thinking. And so taking what we know from the scripture, Philippians 4:8, think on thoughts that are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, good report. If there be any praise, if there be any virtue, memorize those things. And then go to your thoughts whenever they start coming, and those thoughts about the business, about your life, whatever. And then you go, wait a minute, is that true? First one always gets me. Oh man, that is not true. And when you struggle and you're worrying and you're listening more than you're talking to yourself, go to your sponsors. My sponsor is on here right now, and she's probably laughing her head off at me because she knows. And I go to my sponsor, I go to my sidelines, I go to my people, and I say, okay, I'm having these thoughts and they really seem true to me right now. And I know they're not. I need you to help me and that's how you grow. And you got to do that. And if you can't do it on your own, go to other people, because you really were not made to be a victim. You really were not made to be a survivor, even. No, we were made to be a conqueror, and the Bible says more than a conqueror. And I don't believe that a more than a conqueror means you cannot fail. That's what that means. And I'm not saying that everybody on this call is going to be a diamond. That might not be God's will or his plan for your life. But no matter, he said a couple times in there, even if you didn't get to the top, just the fact that you had given it all you had basically was success. And that's what that means. So I'm going to stop preaching. I didn't mean to. Sorry. I was supposed to be the listener on the call, not the talker. Okay. But anyway, you guys are, remember that you are more than a conqueror, even if you're not walking in that truth right now. Ask the Lord to help you live and walk in the truth that he says about you. Memorize Philippians 4:8 and keep reading your book. We're going to finish up chapter 9 and 10. Even if we're not going to have a call after that, we're still going to do the 2 chapters. And the ladies who spoke tonight, thank you so very much. I'm going to be sending each of you a gift card to either get some coffee or go get a little lunch for yourself. Okay. Thank you guys so very much for coming. You guys have a wonderful rest of your week.